It's a great pleasure to have you all here today. There's a great diversity of people, and we have an excellent day ahead of you. I'd first like to introduce myself. My name's Chris Ferguson. I work at a firm called Bridgeable here in Toronto. I teach design to business students here at the University of Toronto, and I'm one of the organizers today.
My name is Nish Haji. I'm here from the Ontario Public Service as a design lead in a policy innovation hub, and I'm also one of the organizers for today.
Now, it's clear, especially in light of recent events, if you look around the world, that we live in a world that's in flux. And if I think back to the world that my grandparents were born into, my grandfather had a job in manufacturing. In fact, he built planes here in Toronto during World War II when he entered the workforce. My dad was a teacher, and so when he entered the workforce, he had a service-based job. And when I entered the workforce, I had a service-based job. And if you look at this example, it really maps to what we see happening in our world, in our economy. So in the 1940s, you were more than likely to enter the workforce in a manufacturing-based job. By the time the 1970s came along, there were twice as many service-based jobs compared to manufacturing jobs. And now, 80% of the jobs that we do and 80% of our economy is services. So it's an interesting thing, a trend to look at. And I think that you might have heard this before. You might have heard these facts. You know, hey, we live in a service-based economy. It's how our economy works. But the interesting fact about it is we tend to talk a lot about the design of products, but not of services. So if you think about it, we'll talk about, hey, I got this great new phone, and look at the design of this phone. Or we might talk about the design of furniture. We'll talk about an interior design that we really like, or looking around at a space like Rotman here and look at interior. But we don't talk about the design of the thing that 80% of us do as a job and that makes up 80% of our economy.
So let's just pause for a little bit to talk about that service sector, if you will. As a public servant, those of you that are public servants in the room, you know that the words do more with less are very, very common. And although it sounds a little bit like a cliche, it's the reality. There is a reality in the service sector, specifically in the public sector, to do more with less. So what does that mean? And what does that mean for the kind of services that we're doing and the design that we're doing? You don't really need to look very far to get a sense of the pressures that the service sector are feeling. You can take a look at just our healthcare systems and our education system to get a sense of the impact of what's happening in the public service. And then there's technological innovations, things that that we're meeting with all the time, and services that were simple, like taking a taxi and going from one point to another, are now very dynamic, and there are so many options and so many things that you need to think about, and we're moving towards technological innovations that are really impacting, again, that service sector. And this is not just true for the public service and for some of the social services that I've alluded to, but our private institutions, things like our financial institutions, are also seeing this pressure and this change in the service sector. We used to go banking with our cash and go and give our cash to a person and hand that over. And now we do things with a touch of our fingers, and apps and various platforms like Wealthsimple that you're seeing on the screen give us an example of that kind of that world in flux with technological innovations. And finally, there's also the reality of people and this kind of global economy that we're in. Chris sort of talked about this growth of 80% of us are now in the service sector, and people are reacting to the things that are happening in the service industry. They're sometimes reacting in unsettling ways, and it gives us a chance to kind of reflect on, again, what is the pressure and what's the dynamic of the service industry?
So what's the role of design in all this? So if you look back to that manufacturing age, a lot of the role of design was aesthetics. It was the sensory experience of things. And you can see this great quote by the academic Don Norman, who says, "Attractive things work better." But with services, we're actually focused on managing the risks of the invisible. And if you think about services, a lot of the elements that we think about with services are actually invisible. So if you take, for example, going to a hotel, the service of getting a hotel room. I could go and register my room online. I could go and wait in line to check in. Go spend a weekend in a hotel and just have a wonderful, wonderful time. 5-star rating.
And then I go and check in, and I book a hotel room overnight and online. I go in, and there's a long line. I try to check in, and they don't have my name. And really, I have a really bad experience of going to a hotel.
And this could be on the exact same weekend. So what's the differences between these, right? What are the things you can think about as being the differences? And when you compare products, it's very easy to put a product side by side, right? And to say, this one's made out of tin and this one's made out of gold. Or, this one has a faster processor than this one. Or this car has a V6 engine that has a V8 engine. It's very easy to compare these things. With services, a lot of the differences are invisible. So service design helps mitigate the risk of things like changing customer behavior. So by using tools like customer journey maps, we can actually look at what are the expectations of the end user when they're coming into an experience from their point of view. We can also mitigate organizational risk of actually implementing an idea. So tools such as service blueprints allow us to think about what are all of the different handoffs, who are all the different players involved in the service, and how do we ensure that there's going to be a seamless end-to-end experience. And it can even help mitigate the risk around larger systemic issues and regulatory risks. So methods like co-design can allow us to bring together different people from different sectors, different institutions, to come together, people who have divergent viewpoints. And through a method like co-design, we can actually understand what are all these different people's point of view, and we can co-design a solution that works for everyone. So now in our current economy, the role of the designer has shifted to being managing risk for a world that's fundamentally in flux. And we are very, very excited to have you all here today to talk about this idea of managing these invisible risks. And we have a lot of different people from different sectors, from different institutions, who have great experience, who are going to tell you their stories of how they're dealing with the world in flux and managing these invisible risks. So there's a lot of people to thank. It's amazing to actually see you all here today, because this has just been something we've been talking about for at meetings on a weekly basis. And as you guys know, when these things come to life, it's always exciting. I'd like to thank Patrick Bach, who maybe Patrick, you can stand up. He's over here. Patrick's been responsible for programming. Marie-Ève Bélanger, who's been on communications and coordination. Please stand up. Yeah, you guys can give her some love, please.
Yeah, right.
Marcus Group, who's also been involved in programming. Marcus, please stand up. Yep.
Myself. Arthur Mui, who's been helping us with a lot of our communications and our website and all of that stuff. Arthur, back there.
Rotman grad.
Oh yeah, good point. Shauna Segal, who has also been helping us really with the logistics and a lot of the setup of today's space. And Chad Story, who's been doing a lot of our coordination, helping us coordinate those meetings, but not only all of the communications as well. So Chad.
And I'd like to give an especially big shout out to Chad and to Marie-Ève. I think Chad has really been the service blueprinter of this event. And Marie-Ève, really, if you think about all the touch points, all the design of everything you see around here, it's really been Marie-Ève. And this has been a full-time job for them for the last couple of months. So let's give an extra round of applause to those guys.
There are also a number of different volunteers, people that greeted you as you walked in, that helped at registration, that have really spent the day today out of their normal activities to be here and to help us make this a great experience. So a huge thank you to all of those volunteers as well as contributors that you will see throughout the day. There are sponsors that always contribute to making the success. This stuff doesn't happen without some sponsorship and some money. And so really great to have these guys on board and people that are represented in the room as well as these sponsors. So thank you to all of the sponsors.
Immediately go out and buy all of their services.
Sales pitch.
Okay, so this is a snapshot of some of all of you who are here today, of some of the different organizations who are here and present in the room. And if you look, there are people from the public sector, from different kinds of institutions. There's people from agencies. There's people from different sectors of the private sector. Many different academic institutions all present here today. So as an exercise, I'd like, if you're an academic or a student, can you please stand up? Okay, great. Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. If you are in the private sector or if you work at a consultancy, please stand up. All right. Yep. Hey, we can cheer for them too. And if you work for the government or if you work for an NGO or non-governmental organization, please stand up.
I'm going to stand on here.
Okay, excellent. So you can see, when you think about some of the problems our society is facing, it requires this kind of cross-sector, cross-industry collaboration. So it's really excellent to see you all here today. So we're going to do a quick little get-to-know-you exercise. If everyone can stand back up, we're going to take the next 2 minutes or so. Introduce yourself to someone around you who you don't know. Get to know them, ask them why they're here, all right? Okay, everyone, please take your seats.
We're hoping to see that kind of energy throughout the day, just so you know, the expectation's high. So it wouldn't be a design conference without design principles. And we really wanted to share some of our vision for today, and we're really hoping that you guys can sort of help us with it. Build your network. Follow along with what you've done in the last 2 or 3 minutes and really get to know people. There is an incredible amount of diversity, and we are excited and intentional about that, so please do what you can to spend time and meet people. Imagine new futures. I think there's something to be said about the kind of problems that we're facing as a society and the role for service design. What are you going to learn today? What can you take from today that you'll be able to apply tomorrow? What can you imagine for yourself and for the service sector tomorrow? And then in the end, enjoy the experience. Fully immerse yourself in the conference today. We all have taken time to be here, some of us, most of us.
People know you're away from the office.
People know you're away. You've paid, you're here, there's food, there's really no reason to go anywhere else, and there are a lot of great people to talk to. So please try your very best to be immersed in this conference and to learn and to take everything that you can from it. And those are our design principles for you for today.
Everyone
good?
in with those?
Yeah? Cool.
All right, great.